Hello everyone and a very warm welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. In this video, we will talk about CSAT exam. More specifically, the reading comprehension segment of the CSAT exam. We all know that it happens to be a very decisive and important component of UPSC Prelims exam. However, talking about reading comprehension, it continues to be the most dreaded, the most feared, and therefore the most neglected aspect of CSAT preparation. So let's talk about the kind of questions which come from the reading comprehension segment in CSAT and what should be the best strategy to prepare for them. Now, talking about the structure of the CSAT, we know that it carries total 200 marks and these have been allotted to a total of 80 questions. But when we have a look at the content of the paper or the syllabus or the topics from where the questions come from, it is a mix and match between the following segments. On the one hand, you have reading comprehension questions. On the other hand, you have a mix between general mental ability, you have logical reasoning and analysis, decision-making, problem solving, and interpersonal communication skills. So we can say that while a fair segment of this exam is numerical, but it is also true that in the last few years, at least 25 to 28 questions out of these 80 questions total have been coming from the reading comprehension segment. So therefore, if we need to get qualifying marks for the CSAT paper, which is 66 marks out of the total 200 marks, approximately a 33% qualifying criteria. If we fail to score this much, then we end up not clearing the prelim stage itself. And the fact that each and every question here carries 2.5 mark, which is a heavy score, a heavy weightage. Therefore, it becomes important that we give sincere attention to all the topics from where the questions are being taken, be it the numerical segment or be it the comprehension segment. But the bigger question is, why are generally candidates so apprehensive? Why are they so scared about the reading comprehension topic when the data says that the weightage given to RC questions is quite high? Now, if you have a look at the table presented here, you get a fair idea that from 2011 onwards until 2021, you have somewhere between 25 to even sometimes 32 questions that have been taken from RC for your CSAT exam. So which obviously means that this is one segment which we cannot afford to overlook should we aspire to get a good score here. Then why the fear? Why the paranoia against comprehension? So let me talk about a few myths which have been badly propagated among the students. Now, one of the biggest myths regarding reading comprehension segment is that it is not scoring at all. Another popular belief among students is that it is very unpredictable in nature. While for the numerical segment, we can maintain better accuracy, but in the comprehension questions, given that they are very complicated, the level changes from one year to another, it's generally on the tougher side, which means that accuracy is not possible to be maintained. So trust me, these are all myths that are uselessly being spread around, because comprehension segment can be as scoring as your numerical ability segment, provided we are familiar with the trend of the kind of passages that we get. Apart from that, we know the right method of solving these comprehension passages. And that is exactly what we are going to talk about here. So before going forward with the method and the previous year questions, let us understand how do the comprehension questions really look like. When we say a passage-based question or when we say a reading comprehension passage in the CSAT exam, how does it look? It is generally given to you in the form of a short passage. Now, since 2015 onwards, the trend in CSAT exam is that generally very small passages are provided to you. So these small passages are also known as quote passages. They are barely 5 to 6 lines. So which means a lot of time doesn't get wasted in reading them. The problem is they do not express any direct meaning. They are very analytical in nature. They always express some meaning indirectly, and that's the reason why our strategy has to be accommodated accordingly. You can't read them at the first go and then understand the meaning. A lot of students feel that despite reading the passages here multiple number of times, they still do not comprehend what is the passage actually trying to convey. And that also explains the fear around RC passages here. So, they generally come in front of you in the form of a very short passage to be followed by either one or two questions. And each of these questions will give you 4 options to select the answer from, given that it is an objective type multiple choice question format here. So, what kind of passages come in this exam? What are the themes from which passages are generally extracted? So some of the common themes or some of the common topics from which RC passages here are picked up from are ecology, environment or geography. Now you know that most of the CSAT passages generally revolve around current news pieces. Whatever is happening around us in news events, that is exactly what the CSAT paper reflects too. Passages generally here will either talk about some environmental problem. It could be about global warming, it could be about the deforestation or the jungle fires, it could be about the melting of glaciers, it could be about air pollution, climate change, or anything related. Specifically from 2018 to 2021, mostly all the passages, a majority of them were based on ecology or environment. So therefore, if we read the newspapers or if we listen to the news, generally we do build some perspective around ecological issues, and that is exactly what helps us in understanding the technical terms used in passages like these. For example, there was a passage on air quality index back in 2015. So for those of us who are familiar with current news events can easily understand what is being spoken about. The next very popular category from where the topics are picked up is economics. Now, Indian economy or the global economy. A lot of news events are associated with economy. It could be about recession happening in the global economy. It could be about the low growth of India's gross domestic product. It could be about any agriculture crisis in India. It could be about the general slow growth in Indian economy, inflation, rising unemployment in urban India, the Niti Aayog and its policies, the budget released by the government. So anything associated with Indian economy, or maybe it could be about the impact on European economy after the Russia-Ukraine war. So something which is related to economics generally comes as a short passage. The unique thing about passages based on economy or economics is that they carry generally a lot of data in terms of numbers, names of institutes, percentages. So once you know how to pay focus on these data that are highlighted, we can easily understand what the passage is talking about. Another very important theme behind the passages is health and nutrition. So trust me, right after ecology and economy, the third most prominent theme happens to be biology or science in general. Now these passages have been coming numerous number of times in the last few years in the form of either chronic diseases like diabetes or hypertension among Indian population. These could be about the high rate of malnourishment in India. It could be about Poshan Abhiyan, Eat Right movement. It could be about any disease like COVID-19. It could be about something related to World Health Organization and its initiatives. It could be about the National Rural and Urban Health Missions or the National Health Mission, Ayushman Bharat Mission. So the things which you generally find happening in day-to-day life, things which dominate the news, are generally what you see here as well. Sometimes the passages can get quite technical. For example, you had a passage a couple of years back on the difference between malnourished and well-nourished children in terms of their gut bacteria or the microbiome. So sometimes they have a lot of technical scientific terms which are slightly confusing, but generally if we are aware and if we know what's happening around in the news, we can quite grasp the meaning easily. Then another issue here becomes politics. So from Indian polity or political science, you can have a variety of issues. For example, Indian elections. It could be about the problems of Indian democracy. It could be about the policies of the current government. It could also be about secularism in India, the communalism that's going on nowadays, what has the government done to address these issues? So anything, either the solution to the problems or the problems themselves, all regarding the political aspect of Indian society, they get covered in these topics. Sometimes they also give you political philosophies. For example, the idea of Plato, Rousseau, Karl Marx, or anything which has been said by these thinkers could come in the form of a passage for you to interpret. Then you have social issues. Topics from this segment are generally very easy. So social issues topic could be any problem which is happening in and around your society. It could be the problem of poverty. It could be the problem of gender inequality, the problems which women face. It could be about education system in India, the national or the new education policy changes which the policy seeks to introduce. These could be about corruption in India, or these could be about income inequality in society. These could be about joint family or the new family norm in India. So anything, dowry, something which occurs as a social problem often spoken about. These could be about the reservation problem, the caste bias in India. Any social issue could be highlighted here, but they are very easy to understand because there is no data involved here and it's not scientific at all. Very simple language. Then you talk about philosophy. These are the most interesting passages because they are quite easy to comprehend again. They generally come as 1 or 2 or 3 line passages, and they are presented to you in the form of a quotation that has been said by some very famous philosopher. It could be from Kant, it could be from Mahatma Gandhi, it could be from Aristotle. So any famous quotation on which some questions will be based, generally 1 or 2 questions. Another theme which comes rarely but sometimes it does, that is the narrative variety of passages. Like in 2015, you had a very interesting narrative passage. Narrative passages are nothing but they are very short stories given to you, or sometimes not even short stories. They are a part of some longer story. Very easy to understand. It comes as a flow only about some characters sharing some event, a question based on what is the theme of the passage. Generally, that is what is asked. Now, after we know the kind of passages that come here, we must also understand then that what should we do once we see the questions based on RC in the exam. So the very first thing that we should do is to read the passage length and breadth, which is from the first line to the last line. Here in CSAT exam, passages need to be thoroughly understood because generally the questions are not direct. So our intention should be to understand the crux of the passage. Crux of the passage is the main idea behind the passage. Now, do understand that in every passage across the world, whatever passage, whatever exam we may talk about, all passages, they have 2 elements. One is known as the main idea, which is the crux of the passage, the main thing which the passage is trying to talk about, its main intention, its spirit, its gist. Apart from this, you have many other ideas in the passage which are known as secondary ideas or supporting ideas. While the main idea is the most important, it is the noun that is being spoken about, a name, a place, an animal or a thing, that's a noun. And the supporting ideas are generally adjectives. These could be verbs. It is about the quality of the noun that is being spoken about in the passage or some activity that's being done in the noun that's being referred to in the passage. If we know what's the main idea, then answering the questions in CSAT becomes very easy. Because generally in CSAT, you don't get direct questions. You get indirect questions which are known as inference-based questions. Sometimes theme-based questions. While the theme-based questions try to identify or they want you to identify the main idea directly, inference-based questions are slightly more complicated. They give you a series of facts, 2 or 3 statements. You need to read those statements from the options and then understand that which of these are reflecting an inference from the passage, or what is the hidden meaning behind the passage that's being asked in the question. So therefore, a thorough understanding of main idea becomes very important here, because unless we know the main idea, we cannot answer theme or inference based question. Now there is also a likelihood that a couple of times, maybe in the entire exam, 2 to 3 questions could be passage based questions, which are very easy. So these are direct questions. Here, the option in the question will absolutely match the words and the language of the passage. So you just need to Read the passage once and you can immediately select the answer from the given options because the right option will be directly taken from the passage. That's very easy to solve. But the main challenge is the other two segments, that's theme-based and inference-based. So therefore it is important that in CSAT exam we also pay good attention to the tone of the passage and the theme of the passage. While theme is about the main idea of the passage. What is the passage trying to refer to? What's the passage talking about? Tone is the attitude of the author or the emotion of the author behind writing the passage. It could be a positive tone, a funny tone, a motivational tone, an inspiring tone. It could be a negative tone, for example, anger, sarcasm, criticism, apology, any of that. Similarly, you could have neutral tones. These could be either expository or informative. If the passage is only giving an information, the author is neither appreciating something nor is he happy or sad, no emotion coming out, it becomes a very neutral tone. These could be just informative passages giving you information or exposing some reality which you don't know about already. That could be expository passages, something like the news events, which are highly expository, which tell the reader or the viewer about a secret thing that they don't know. So, either you could have a neutral or a positive or a negative tone involved here. But always remember, since we have to make inferences, since we have to be able to answer inference-based questions, it is important that in CSAT exam, speed is less important when you talk about RC. It is always the accuracy that's more important. So even if you are able to do only, say for example, 15 out of 25 passages, but you have done them with accuracy and thorough understanding, you have a much better chance of scoring. Rather than a situation where you have hastily read through the passages, you have skimmed through the passages quickly and just answered the questions in a hurry. That is a much riskier thing to do. So let's avoid that and let's believe that the passages have to be thoroughly understood. So how do the passages in CSAT look like and what do we mean by inference-based questions? Talking of inference-based questions, inference is the art of becoming a detective. For example, if I tell you it is cloudy outside and I will take my umbrella with me. After listening to these two statements, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? It is always rain or rainfall. But I never used the word rain and I never said anything about rainfall. You yourself, by logical reasoning, you were able to find the hidden meaning behind my sentences that I mean rainfall. This is the art of making inference. And this is exactly what you have to do in CSAT passages too. You have to do logical analysis of these passages. The passages will give you some information, generally short, squat passages like this one of 2050. You need to read them. But you have to understand the hidden meaning, the thing which is hidden behind these lines by making a logical analysis or an inference here. So let's have a look at the passage then. What does it say? So the passage says, flamingos in large flock in the wild are social and extremely loyal. The very first line, once we read it, we need to stop for a second and analyze what is the theme of the passage. What's the passage talking about? Here the passage is talking about some bird species, flamingos really, how they are living in large groups and they are very, very loyal as well as they are social, which means they interact a lot with each other. They live in group and communities. So we know that either it is an ecology-based passage dealing with climate, environment, geography. Or we know it is some biology-related passage, science-related passages which is talking about a species of some animal. So let's proceed. They perform group mating dances. Parents are very fond of their chicks, means their children, the young ones. Firstly, they do group mating dances together when it's the mating season for these birds, and then parents really love their children, the baby flamingos, and they organize them. They gathered them into creches. Now creche is like the daycare for us, where working parents leave their children while they are away for work. So flamingos also have a very fascinating daycare kind of system in which once the male and the female are flying away to find food, they are leaving behind their young ones or the chicks in the custody or protection of other flamingos in the group. So it's a very sweet and a very fascinating passage about the life of these birds. So once you read the entire passage, then let's proceed with the question. Question says, which among the following is the most logical corollary to the above passage. Now in CSAT passages, if you see the last year papers, they always ask you inference-based questions in certain keywords. One is corollary. The other is logical analysis. The third is what do you infer from the passage. Then it will be what are you trying to deduce from the passage. And there's another word which we just read, that is corollary. All these keywords mean you have to solve an inference-based question. That's the hidden meaning behind the passage. Options are A. Mass nesting in all species of birds is essential to ensure a complete survival of their offspring. B. Only birds have the capacity to develop social behavior and thus can do mass nesting to raise their children in safety or chicks in safety. C. Social behavior in some species of birds increases the odds of survival in an unsafe world. And D. All species of birds set up creches for their chicks or for the babies to teach them social behavior and loyalty. So now, if we see all these options, for somebody who doesn't know the method with which we solve CSAT passages, will keep thinking which one is correct, which is not. Probably the first one looks okay, it looks correct, or maybe the third one is correct. So a lot of time gets wasted because to solve IBQs or inference-based questions, you really have to think a lot. And that's where the method comes in. The method that we talk about while we take CSAT lectures and classes. So these methods are a couple of strategies which come together in the form of a fourfold methodology or a fourfold strategy, in which the first one is about only paying attention to the independent clauses. Second one is about avoiding the dependent clauses. The third one is about a strategy which we know as EWS strategy, the most important one. And the last one is about the structure word strategy. So once you use all these strategies, it becomes very simple to answer the question. So if you ask me, I probably will take a second to answer the question, and I would say that C is the right answer. Now you must be thinking, how could I solve it? Is it because I already know the answer? But that's not true. I'm using the EWS strategy here to answer the question. So therefore, it is important to understand the strategy step by step and unless we do that, accuracy in these questions is very difficult to be maintained. There's another very interesting example. If you have a look at the 2017 question here, let's see what the passage says. It talks about some kind of a country or its political nature. It says in a free country, the man who reaches the position of a leader is usually the one of outstanding character and ability. Moreover, it is usually possible to foresee that he will reach such a position since early in life we can see his qualities of character. But this is not true in the case of a dictator. Often, a dictator reaches his position just through chance, very often through the unhappy state of affairs in his country. Now, once you read the passage, still you are not very sure what was it trying to say. And then you see the question. The passage seems to suggest that. The word suggest again means we are talking about an inference-based question, just like corollary, deduction, and logical analysis. We have, what does the passage suggest? A leader foresees his future position. B, a leader is chosen only by a free country. C, a leader must see that his country is free from despair. Or D, despair in a country sometimes leads to dictatorship. Now, how to improve the reading comprehension ability? Well, it is not a very short-term process, something that can happen over a period of 2 to 3 months if we dedicatedly. One thing is, take the lectures seriously and be familiar with all the 5 strategies that we teach. Second thing is, it's very important to read regularly newspaper editorials like from the Hindu, Economic Times, or Indian Express. Any newspaper which you like, read at least one para of the editorial page 3 times a week. That gives you a very good idea of how to identify hidden meaning behind passages. Then you have magazines like Yojana, Economic, Political Weekly, which are very, very helpful because not only do they deal with current affairs which are happening in and around us in our everyday lives and news and newspapers, but apart from that, they also use a very good language with good vocabulary. So it helps you in improving your vocabulary also. For improving vocabulary directly, it's so important not to only look for meanings of new words, but to look for synonyms and antonyms of new words. If you find a new word and you just look for its meaning in Google or the dictionary, you will learn just one more word for the word that you today know, which means 2 words. There is a good chance you might forget both these words sometime very soon. So what to do? If you check the synonyms and antonyms instead of the meaning, you will get a list of at least 10 synonyms and 10 antonyms in Google itself. What will happen now? Even if you forget some of these words, there is a very high chance that you will remember some of them. Maybe out of these 10, at least 3 to 4 of them. Say 6 months later or 7 months later. So this in the long run adds up to your vocabulary and it becomes a fixed part of your memory, because now you are exposing yourself to so many words and articles every day. So that's very important. Apart from that, the best source of practicing for CSAT reading comprehension is not any other exam, but only the previous year passages or the previous year question papers, because the level of difficulty which is maintained in CSAT is not usually seen in other exams. So a lot of children, a lot of students use bank exam papers or MBA entrance papers, and then they feel very confused when it doesn't match the standard of CSAT. So I always believe that it's the newspaper editorial articles or the last year papers. These are the only sources that will directly help you for CSAT passages. Apart from that, you can also have a look at the concise CSAT general studies books provided by BYJU'S, which talks about this topic in thorough detail. We can also have a look at the topic-wise solved papers, because here not only that you get the past 10-year question papers, but you can also keep checking with the solutions provided, which will guide you in the right direction. So with routine practice, by attending lectures and knowing methodology, then applying it to the previous year passages, in a matter of just a few months, you shall find yourself very confident with regards to RCs of CSAT, and then this will not be a feared portion at all. In fact, you will be in a situation where you will look forward to the exam only for RC questions. It will turn out to be a very strong area of yours. With this, thank you so much to all of you and all the best.